Formula 1 is back with the start of pre-season testing in Bahrain and just 3 hectic days of running for the 10 teams to get everything ready for the season opener at the end of March. Reliability checks and aerodynamic correlations will be at a premium, especially with 3 manufacturers introducing heavily upgraded engine designs and every team adapting to new aero rules towards the back of the car. But there are plenty of other team-specific objectives to consider as well. Before we get into those, a huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the race so far and helped us surpass 500,000 subscribers. If you're not on board already, hopefully this video helps change your mind as we explore where each team's focus will be across the Bahrain test and what they will be hoping to achieve. Two years ago, Williams didn't even have a car ready for the start of testing, and in 2020 it had a car that was all about fixing the problems of the year before. But this year, not only has Williams' car long since had its first run at Silverstone, it's also ready to try out what team principal Simon Roberts describes as almost a first race upgrade at the test. Once the basics of the car are signed off, expect to see components being back to back to ensure they produce the simulated improvement. While the Williams FW43B is a carryover car like everyone else's, a clear aero step forward in 2021 that works straight out of the box will prove that tangible gains are being made technically. That would be a big positive for Williams' development plan, which is expected to continue into the season despite heavy investment going into the 2022 car. There's been restricted off-season development at Haas with no token spend on the VF20 of last year, and the VF21 will not be upgraded through this season. You can learn more about the logic behind that in another video we've made, but for now it means Haas will spend 2021 fighting with limited weaponry. The team has produced some aerodynamic upgrades that never made it onto last year's car, but that's about it. So at the test, Haas needs to work out what the few new bits it has actually provide. That will range from something it has minimal control over, like discovering the extent of Ferrari's engine progress, to something testing will play a big part in preparing for, which is bedding in F1 rookies Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Understanding the aerodynamic upgrades incorporated into the VF21 is somewhere in between, because discovering a shortcoming isn't going to be much good when there are no further updates planned. But on-track evaluations are still going to be very important to see if Haas's transitional year is really just a season of treading water. Alfa Romeo's main change this year has been a reworking of the nose structure to create a more compact design. While the nose change itself isn't that dramatic and Alfa Romeo hasn't gone as aggressively narrow as teams like Mercedes and Red Bull, it can have a profound impact on the airflow of the car. This means there will be plenty to understand at testing, given the importance of the interaction with the vortex generators on the main plane of the front wing, the front wheel wake, the undernose aero such as the cape, and the complex barge boards. This means we can expect plenty of aero runs with FlowViz paint and aero testing rigs attached to the car, as the team will need to understand the way these systems work in the real world and ensure the correlation is there with its simulations. AlphaTauri declined the option of taking the Red Bull 2020 specification rear end, which would have been a free upgrade, and has instead focused its effort on the front of the car. The team spent its 2 tokens on the nose, with the new version already being seen in action during its Imola shakedown. Last year's AlphaTauri was an effective and well understood package, so the key with the new AT02 will be to ensure that the extra potential of the more compact nose is being harnessed properly. The front wing, undernose aerodynamics and barge boards all effectively create a single system that optimises the airflow of the entire car. This must operate in harmony to optimise the airflow of the entire car, so before other work can be done, the team has to be on top of this all working. That means any discrepancies with simulations will have to be identified and understood. AlphaTauri also has a new specification of Honda engine to integrate and get its head around, but perhaps most importantly, it also has a rookie driver in Yuki Tsunoda. An admittedly strong test program in 2018 and 2019 machinery has helped Tsunoda get up to speed, but 1.5 days in the actual 2021 car is much more serious business. There's a lot riding on this test for Ferrari, which needs to validate off-season progress after a miserable 2020 so it can abandon 2021 as soon as possible and focus its development work on next year. Ferrari has 3 days to assess a new mechanical package at the rear end with a raised differential and new gearbox casing to facilitate a more rearward swept rear suspension. The team also needs to check that an all-new engine doesn't have any teething problems. If there's any problem with any of that, it leaves precious little time left to attend to the chasing of performance, establishing if last year's poor rear end has been improved, and investigating any new car sensitivities around setup, especially on the new Pirelli tyres. A big question is how the new engine's increased power will compare to the 2021 spec Mercedes, Honda and Renault units. Handily, the Sakir circuit is one of the most power sensitive on the calendar, so it's a good chance to understand how to optimise it given there have been changes to the energy recovery system. And while all this is going on, Carlos Sainz Jr. has to use his 1.5 days to begin to fully integrate with the team as well as understand its new car. Technically, the task at Alpine is perhaps more straightforward than at those teams making bigger mechanical changes. This is the same concept of engine merely tweaked, and the same general car layout, although with what should be a better rear end. The questions are going to be more about performance and whether the Alpine A521 can continue the team's improvement curve with small changes around a revised set of technical regulations, the new Pirelli tyres, and with Fernando Alonso's arrival in place of Daniel Ricciardo. For Alonso, there's the question of whether he suffers any difficulties from his recently broken jaw, and for the team, it's also the first glimpse of life after Cyril Abiteboul and with MotoGP convert Davide Brivio overseeing the trackside team. The shakedown of the AMR21 gave Aston Martin a first opportunity to work with star signing Sebastian Vettel in a live trackside environment. However, the test is a much more relevant and significant progression in the 4-time world champion's fledgling journey with his new team. Vettel will have his first real chance to offer feedback on a very different car to last year's Ferrari, and Aston Martin can learn more of what its new driver needs. How well each party adapts to the other will then help inform the early part of his and the team's 2021 season. The other major new element of the Aston Martin setup is the upgraded Mercedes rear end. The AMR21 has the 2020 spec Mercedes gearbox and rear suspension, described as adventurous last year. The new swept-back design, combined with new aero rules every team is adjusting to, will define the AMR21's key characteristics compared to its predecessor, the RP20. Understanding that has to be at the top of the team's to-do list. On paper, McLaren has perhaps the biggest task of all in these 3 precious days. It's the only team changing engine, which means it's the only team ensuring the integration of a power unit from a different manufacturer and with a different architecture works as simulations suggest. McLaren has used the split-turbo Mercedes before, back in 2014, and the split-turbo Honda in 2017, but the devil will be in the detail. Back in 2018 winter testing with what was then a newly acquired Renault motor, McLaren encountered many technical niggles which badly restricted its track time. This had the knock-on effect of a basic flaw in the car's aerodynamics not being properly discovered until the second race. One advantage this time around is the team has had much more of a lead time to make the change, plus the shakedown days at Silverstone. But running the car even remotely close to full potential in testing is a very different proposition. McLaren must fit all this in with the bedding in of a driver new to the team. But this isn't Daniel Ricciardo's first rodeo, and he's been working incredibly hard behind the scenes, so he should adapt very quickly. Two key issues have hampered Red Bull and Honda in the past. For Red Bull, there have been too many cases of poor wind tunnel correlation holding its designs back at the start of a season. For Honda, prior to its Red Bull days, pre-season testing was where a host of fresh reliability problems came to light. What Red Bull and Honda will surely be targeting is an assessment of those areas to see if anything needs urgently addressing for the start of the season. Red Bull needs to make sure that its development work for the new floor rules and whatever other changes have been made on the secretive RB16B haven't exacerbated a bad characteristic or created a new one. With just 3 days of testing, the target must be to understand exactly what the RB16B is doing versus expectations, so another half a season isn't wasted trying to correct it. Engine partner Honda also needs to live test a heavily upgraded engine, benchmarking its reliability and recalibrating its energy recovery requirements. Whatever shortcomings its new engine may have, discovering them in testing could enable countermeasures in time for the season opener, or if the situation is really bad, readying a bigger reliability fix as soon as possible. Like it did 1 year ago, Mercedes has expressed some engine reliability concerns in the off-season. In 2020, Mercedes still had them in pre-season, but there was more time to work around them across 2 weeks of testing, and the start of the season was delayed anyway. That luxury doesn't exist in 2021, especially with just a 3-day test to work with. Mercedes says it has fixes for its fresh 2021 issues on an innovative engine and does expect everything to be fine come the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2 weeks. But validating reliability on track is likely to be a key target nonetheless. Of Mercedes' perceived challenges in 2021, the most relevant for testing is the changed aerodynamic rules. Correlation will be key, as it will be for trialling any new parts. This does go for the other 9 teams as well, but doing the basics right is what Mercedes does best. That's our look at the key focal points for all 10 teams ahead of F1 preseason testing, but let us know in the comments what you're looking forward to seeing most in Bahrain. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the race to keep up to date with more of our videos in the future, including everything that happens around F1 testing.